over here. Welcome. Today, most growth and marketing problems aren't execution problems, they're clarity problems. Today, we're going to help you to diagnose constraints before you prescribe tactics. Our guest today is William Trainer. He is the founder of AMDG Ventures, and he's going to talk to us about how to solve the right problems. We are Nate and Simone, and we talk all things marketing. And before we get going, do us a favor, help us with the algorithm, and subscribe to this channel so that more people can see us, hear us, and learn about using the right strategies before they dive into the tactics in their businesses. We are all about strategic revenue growth over here. All right, let's jump right into it. Hi, William.
Hello,
Welcome.
Simone.
Hi, Nate.
Thank you. I'm
Hey,
glad to
hey,
be
hey.
here.
Awesome. So William, we were just kind of briefly talking. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got here, what it is that you do. Short, brief synopsis. But yeah, how do we get here?
Okay, basically, I work with business owners, small to medium-sized businesses that are feeling a disconnect with where their business is, with where they thought it should be at this point in time. And that disconnect could be any number of things from not having the profitability they were expecting to not feeling like it's matching the purpose that they had in building the business. My background, I've basically been my whole career in the business of improving what I touch. I've been in corporate America. I've been in as a entrepreneur. So I've been on both sides of the spectrum in Fortune 500 companies, was a transformation leader and helping organizations identify opportunities and gaps to improve their profitability and efficiencies. I had a startup company in the Seattle metro area where I put a lot of that learning to my firsthand use, as well as grew a whole lot of new talents and skills in that endeavor as I grew that business from zero up to a multi-million dollars, and then sold it when someone came along and wanted to buy it for more than I thought it was worth. So now I'm
Wow.
trying to help others in their journey to success by sharing some of my experiences and learnings over my lifetime.
Nice. Yeah, usually it's the business owner is convinced that their business is worth more than it really is. So that's the opposite. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's where we want to be, everybody. All right, very good. So yeah, um, a lot of what we talk about on this channel, William, is the concepts of visibility, viability, and value.
Right.
And visibility is like where you have clear positioning and messaging and you're attracting the right opportunities. But then it's also everybody on the team has the information that they need, so that they feel empowered to make decisions on their own. So they're not, constantly pestering the business owner with questions and things like that, right?
Right. And
And we're
that's what in
also
my terminology, I refer to that as clarity, but
perfect. All right.
same thing.
Yes. Yes.
That's perfect. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and we also talk about the viability. So that's where, the revenue operations alignment, right? Your systems, handoffs are all working together across your marketing, sales, and your delivery to your customers. So you're improving and optimizing the customer experience. And it's not hopefully not overwhelming the business owner, right? They have time to take a breather and step back and think strategically about the business. And then obviously we're also concerned about building a valuable business, right? So that involves like scalable, sellable systems, predictable revenue, consistent experiences that are compounding the long-term business value. So I think that what you have to talk about is going to fit right into to what our audience has come to expect from what we talk about. So that's awesome.
Excellent. I agree
Absolutely.
with that synopsis as well.
Yeah, good, good. All right. So we kind of went through William's bio a little bit. He told us about where he's coming from, how we got here. Let's get into some questions. What patterns William, what patterns from engineering and transformation leadership that you've been involved in shape how you diagnose growth problems in a business?
Well, I didn't mention in my brief bio that my further background is in engineering, as you referred to.
Yeah,
I have a couple of engineering degrees from Texas A&M University, and
a couple, huh?
Just a couple. No big deal.
Yeah.
well, you asked anyway. So it basically that my engineering training and engineering mindset has taught me to look for the root cause
Yeah.
of situations, not just surface failures, not just the symptoms. The transformation work, as I indicated in my synopsis, showed me quite readily that a lot of times local optimizations sometimes break the whole, that you have to look at the system holistically. You can't just optimize one piece of it without consideration of the rest of the pieces.
Yeah.
And in business, growth problems usually aren't isolated, as you're probably well aware. There's more often interactions between the systems, like you mentioned, the marketing systems, operation systems, sales systems that are there.
Yeah.
So I tend to look for where effort stops compounding, as you referred, using the terminology compounding,
Mhm.
to identify where those opportunities and gaps are with my clients. So
Nice.
basically, I could sum it up into a brief sentence to be something along the lines of, I bring a lens that is slow to prescribe but fast to diagnose.
Nice. Yeah.
That's
Um,
really good. We were talking, Nate, this morning about your team of developers
mhm.
and how as they are fixing one thing, they don't look at the whole system. They think, okay, well, I fixed this one thing. It's fine, it's done. And they don't do the testing about, okay, well, how does this one thing that I just fixed now affect the rest of the system?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, they have this habit
Yeah.
of delivering and saying, okay, great, it's done, but they haven't done any regression testing. Has this thing that I fixed now broken something else? And we have to do that in our businesses.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And relying on the users to break the thing without necessarily telling them that that was going to be the result can often have a negative impact on the customer experience in that case. So, yeah.
Right.
Um, there is the whole concept of the user testing phase, right? But it's one of those things where you get what you pay for, I guess, to some degree. But anyway, um, so William, when do you find that owners actually call you? What's the moment that tells them that something is misaligned or missing in that case?
Um, it varies, but it can be summed up in general terms that they're experiencing growth without relief, is one way to put
Hmm.
it. Their revenue may be up.
Growth without relief.
Yeah, their revenue may be
Hmm.
up, but cash is tighter. Decisions seem heavier. The owner feels like they're the bottleneck in the
Yeah.
operation. They have this sense in the back of their mind or in their gut that they're working harder for diminishing returns. And I could give an example of what I'm meaning by that. Had this one client I was working with, his owner came to me, his revenue was up, but he felt more exhausted than ever. Sales were closing, the team was busy, every new win, but created more stress, more follow-ups, more rework, more decisions that were landing back on the owner's desk. And he finally told me, frankly, I've I finally built the business that I wanted, and now I'm afraid to take a day off.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's usually when we find that onboarding, fulfillment, or scheduling, like you mentioned, all those different systems, were never designed to scale. So that growth just magnifies those cracks in the
Yep.
foundation.
That's a recurring
Absolutely.
problem for a recurring discussion here on the channel for us,
Yeah,
isn't it?
for sure.
You know?
You're speaking our language, in other words.
Yeah.
Like,
Without these systems being aligned and without systems in place and having a team that is empowered to make decisions without it all landing on the founder's desk.
Right.
The
yep.
founder can't take a day off.
Yeah, because you're
Vacation, what's
in
that?
right, and your third V, I mean, it basically impedes the valuation of the company. And your
Hmm.
third P, if everything has to funnel through the foundation, if it's not scalable, it's not repeatable, it's not
Absolutely.
systematized.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So the core message that we want to convey here today, William, according to you, is that most growth and marketing problems aren't execution problems, they're clarity problems. So, you know, continuing on this line here, what does a clarity problem look like in the wild? I think we kind of touched on some of these, but yeah,
In the wild, huh?
yeah, in the wild, yeah, yeah, yeah,
In
yeah.
the jungles of business.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
Well, what I've found is they generally look something like the teams in the owner's business are busy. The dashboards oftentimes look healthy. Everything is green. Their meetings are full, but the results aren't moving in proportion to the effort that everybody feels like they're putting in. Their owners may be confident in the tactics that they're executing, but they're not sure which tactics are really the right ones to focus on. So they're tracking plenty of numbers, but most of them, unfortunately, tend to be lagging indicators, which by that I mean that by the time something shows up, its damage is already done. And the goal is to shift, to be able to look at the leading indicators in the business for the owner to be able to monitor how the business is truly doing, so that they can have answers to the right questions rather than all the answers but asking the wrong questions.
Hmm. All right. Is there a time that you can recall where you worked with somebody that their team solved the wrong problem really well? Have you ever had that situation?
Well, that actually usually happens after the sort of the situation I described earlier when you were asking about when owners usually call me, that the owners feel the symptoms, the exhaustion is real. And in this particular situation, they had invested heavily in lead generation, new campaigns, better funnels, tighter follow-ups, and it worked. They were growing revenue. Pipelines were full, dashboards were green. Everyone thought momentum had returned. But fulfillment couldn't keep up. Margins compressed and cash lagged. Every win seemed to increase the strain. They didn't have a lead problem, they had a viability problem, as we've talked about. They had good visibility, visibility improved, but the viability failed to be able to absorb it. And what the situation in that particular case was that they were tracking revenue predominantly, but ignoring contribution margin and capacity in their business. And unfortunately, in this case, it sort of reinforces the axiom that revenue feeds vanity,
Mhm.
whereas profit feeds freedom for the business
Mm,
owner.
Or profit feeds the family? Is that
Yeah,
you said that one time?
that's another way
yes.
of putting it. Yes.
It's the
Yeah.
family.
So
That's a
so
great quote.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So when we yeah, I
Yeah.
like it. I
Yeah.
should put it on my wall back here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we ended up doing the diagnosis and mapping one deal end to end, it was obvious that more volume was increasing stress, not strength. Once they saw that, the next move was obvious. They need to look at their pricing and how their margins were being captured.
So increased pricing, which reduces potential customers, but frees up capacity.
It oftentimes does. I mean, that's a real fear that I found a lot of business owners have, particularly if they've been in business for a while. They feel like they don't have the flexibility to raise their prices, despite their suppliers raising their costs of doing business and their cost of goods sold. But
Yeah.
they're convinced that if they raise their prices even a small percentage, that their customers will flee. But
Yeah.
that's rarely the case, as I'm sure you're aware and have experienced as well,
Yeah.
that very few customers on a small price increase are going to abandon a company that's create value for them.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
that
really
ends
the
up,
key.
yeah, that ends up being great for the company because they have an increase in revenue, which increases their margins potentially, right?
Right.
There are going to be some customers that aren't going to like it, however, and they're probably going to flee, which ends up being a good thing because again, it's freeing up capacity, and providing a little bit of space there, breathing room.
Well, from
So
my
it ends up being
experience,
a
yeah,
positive, right?
right. Oh, definitely. And from my experience, the other aspect that's often the case there, and I experienced this myself in my own startup company, is oftentimes those customers that flee because you raise your prices 3 to 5% are the ones that were taking up 80% of your time trying to satisfy
Yeah,
them.
Yeah,
yeah,
And so,
exactly.
sometimes you have to be willing for the good of the business and your own sanity to be able to fire a customer.
Yep,
absolutely.
yep. Um,
Absolutely.
all right. So again, we talked a little bit about the V3 growth system, kind of like, our worldview, how we view things, and how we're kind of translating the steps to take and the things to implement in a business to help make it easy
Hmm.
to kind of like think things through, right, for a business owner. Um, and so in your case, then, so we have visibility, viability, and value. How do you end up deciding on which one of those to work on first? You know, for pardon us for trying to shoehorn you into our worldview here, but
Oh, I mean, you're not shoehorning me. I mean,
okay, all
I think we
right.
align pretty well.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, you
yeah,
Yeah,
use slightly different terminology and have the
yeah,
V3
exactly.
concept, but it maps well into my worldview as well. So
All right, perfect, perfect.
it's not shoehorning.
Okay, all right, all right.
So basically, to answer your question, though, what I look for to decide which V to work on first,
Yeah.
I basically look for a constraint that makes everything else harder for the business. If leads are wrong, then it's probably visibility. If leads convert, but cash breaks, then it might be viability. If the results depend on the founder, like we talked about earlier, then that's
Yeah.
probably value. Because most frustration I find comes from working on the right things in the wrong order.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Like the right things in the wrong order. Okay. So, can you give us an example here where something like that could impact a business?
Well, I mean, like we alluded to earlier, if you're both focused on increasing your leads and increasing your sales before you've
Yeah,
built your capacity for growth, then you're working on things in the wrong order. You ne- at,
gotcha.
at at a minimum, you should be working on your capacity in parallel with growing your sales. But ideally, you want to be having that as a leading activity so that when you do increase your sales, there's no bottleneck that they run up against.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Do you find it's difficult to convince business owners that they need to do this type of thing? Because it would seem that doing so would require an investment up front in order to kind of make room for working on the lead generation, for example. Like you have to have the ability to take those leads and do something with them already kind of set up before you get new increased leads, in other words. Do you find you're running up against a
It can be
resistance in
challenging.
that case?
I mean, it can,
Yeah.
yeah, most people are
Yeah.
resistant, but the way I typically work around that is to help them envision, okay, what would your business look like if your sales increased by 50%? And then work through them that with that scenario as far as, okay, do you have the capacity to handle that much increase? Where is that capacity going to be bottlenecked? Is it because everything has to go through you for something and you don't have enough hours in the day? Is your manufacturing line constrained so that you don't have the capacity to increase through- throughput to meet that increased demand? Are the suppliers that you're working with don't have the capacity to give you more raw materials to turn out into the product that you're making for that increased demand? So normally, yeah, the initial reaction is pushback, but once you sort of step through, as I said earlier, diagnostically, so that they can see, okay, increased sales is great, but all these other things are going to happen to my business when I have those increased sales, and that's going to impede my ability to satisfy
Yeah.
my customers with those increased sales.
Absolutely.
The domino effect. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen that happen. I have a friend who she sells bottled drinks.
Mhm.
And she puts them in stores, or the putting them in stores is coming. But right now, people order them by the case, and she ships it to them directly. But the bottling plant is not equipped to allow her to manufacture her, to fill her bottles at the
Right.
same time where they're filling some other company's bottles. Because for her, she's using she sells what 12-ounce bottles, and the other one they sell 16-ounce bottles. And so in order to fulfill one order, they have to switch all the machines around in their factory
Yeah.
to work with this company over here, and then switch it back to work with this company over here. And it's like, okay, can you actually handle all the customers that are in your pipeline?
Right.
Because
Oh, yeah.
if you're working B2B, you don't want what your process to actually stop one business from being able to actually to do business, to fulfill their orders. You're
Right.
basically stopping a business from functioning.
No, that's
And
exactly right. And from my work as a transformation leader in corporate America, we ran into that quite a lot, and would typically have a team working with that bottling plant and the two suppliers to see, okay, does it make sense for one of those customers to switch to the other customer's bottle size, so that then that facilitates the bottling plant to be able to handle both customers better because they're not having to retool and
yeah.
reconfigure every time they
It ends up
switch.
it would end up improving, delivery time, throughput, and
Exactly.
make their customers happy because they're getting their drinks on time or ahead of
Nope.
schedule. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
Yep, I worked in manufacturing for almost a decade doing international sales, and this is something that we ran up against quite a bit, especially around COVID when
Yeah.
all that hit and shut everything down and huge backups. Anyway, um,
I
all
want to
right,
know, how do you
so
convince a client to do what they don't want to do? My friend
yeah,
doesn't want to change her bottle size. He's like, nope, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't. It doesn't
You're
work all the
right.
time, but at least you've had the
No,
conversation, and
you have to have the conversation.
then everybody accepts that, okay, this is a limitation of the system right now,
Mhm.
given the constraints that we all agree are in place.
Mhm.
So then it's
Hopefully
up
they
to
see the
that
light.
customer to make their own decision. Okay, am I staying here or am I going to a new bottling plant?
Right.
Yeah. Mm.
It's on them
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
point.
But like you said, you
Um,
had the conversation,
Yep,
mhm.
exactly. And
and that's
that's the
all
most
you can
important
do.
thing. Yep, is to
Yeah,
communicate, over communicate.
Let's
absolutely.
let's get more into visibility specifically. We're kind of talking about this a little bit into viability, but William, when have you ever had the experience of someone saying we need more leads? Does that come up? Does that come up a lot in your conversations?
Yes, that's oftentimes an opening
Yeah.
gambit.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So where do you start then when you hear that phrase?
Again, get back to my core belief of diagnosing what's really going on in the business. I mean, they need more leads. So we'll look at, okay, how are your leads currently being handled? Are are the deals closing, but is onboarding chaotic? Is the cash flow from those sales unpredictable? Are handoffs within your organization between sales and marketing and fulfillment, are they inconsistent? Is the owner, founder having to get involved in the minutia of everything? Then that tells me that, okay, yeah, that's probably something that is more, maybe the visibility is there, but the viability could be
Yeah.
the constraint that needs to be looked at.
For me, I'm always wondering, okay, we need more leads, but why? Like, that's the first thing that's on my mind.
Right,
Like, why? Why do you need more leads exactly? Why do you
right.
think that? But yeah, because I agree, it's like the first thing, oftentimes we need more leads. And usually it's because, well, I need more money, right? I need more revenue.
Right.
That's
And if
that's
that's the
that's the
case,
answer.
then there's other options like we alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
When was the last time they had a price increase?
Hmm.
A modest price increase, even with minimal customer loss, can be a significant improvement to the bottom line. Or when
Hmm.
was the last time they renegotiated with their suppliers? If they had the same suppliers since they started the business, but their business is now triple what it was before, I mean, no fault of the supplier, but they're not necessarily going to be forthright and say, "Hey, you're now buying 3 times as much from us than you were before, so we can offer you a price cut
Yeah.
unless the owner asks for it." And those things translate directly to the profitability and bottom line and cash flow that without having to increase revenue necessarily.
Hmm. Um, do you find yourself working with businesses on like things like their ICP and their ideal client app or client profile and that kind of thing? Do you in the work that you
Oftentimes,
do?
because
Yeah.
that's one of the things I first diagnosed with the business is how cleanly defined and how well known within the business is their market dominating position, their value proposition, which leads right into their ICP. And oftentimes the owner probably has a good idea of it, but it's not necessarily, and he or she has probably thought they've communicated it to the rest of the organization, but it's not really part of the culture yet. And it's not consistent across all the marketing collateral that the organization may have. And so to simplify things, 'cause that's what, in addition to clarity, simplicity is I value very highly as well. If the owner doesn't have a good idea of what their ideal customer profile might be, the simple method I used is to look at who are their customers that are the fastest closers right now? Which customers do they have the highest margins? Which customers have the least friction in delivering the product or service to? So listen to the language that the owner is using, not necessarily force fitting it into demographics at this point.
And that doesn't
Because in
necessarily
my
Love
mind, your
that.
best customers, yeah, because in my mind, your best customers have already told you who your
Yeah,
They
ICP is.
are right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's such a great way to figure it out. It's like look
Yeah.
at the people who are super excited and ready and throwing you the money,
Right.
right?
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a
And it
great way to
doesn't
look at
doesn't necessarily involve any kind of like, research. So
And
that's
that can
good.
come later to
Yeah,
validate things and to more
yeah,
formalize it. But
yeah.
certainly as initial first pass, that gets 80% of the way there.
Hmm. In
yeah, it's
in
like
your
what do they have in common, right? That's a great question to ask right off the bat. The people who are readily willing to pay me for what I'm offering, what do they all have in common?
Right.
Mhm.
And particularly those like you alluded to that are singing my praises to their friends and family.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
We
Yes.
want more of those. Yeah.
Right.
Um, so when it comes to empowering your teams to make decisions, especially on brand decisions, without having the owner constantly having to approve those decisions, what do you recommend as far as mechanisms to enable that situation? Or do you, I guess?
Um, I mean, I don't have a one size fits all mechanism or methodology for that. I find that what I try to do is walk through one or more example deals that they've had end to end and ask the deep dive questions. Who owns it? What does qualified mean here? Ensure that just have a common terminology throughout the organization between like
Yeah,
who's qualified, what's an opportunity. Because oftentimes the marketing and sales groups or the marketing and sales people, if it's a small business and there's only one of each,
yeah.
might and they're while they think they understand what the other person is saying, may
Hmm.
not really understand if what a
Yeah.
marketer means by opportunity versus a salesperson means by a qualified lead or
Almost guaranteed that they don't understand each other, right?
right.
Marketing and sales, totally different languages.
Speaking
Yeah.
different languages.
So identify those types of mismatches and then
Yeah,
see where that process slows down. And it's that slowdown often is, like you'd indicated, it has to go through the owner's inbox to their outbox and with an approval. And
yeah,
given the situation and the temperament of the owner and the size of the organization, that needing to learn the art of delegation
yeah,
is critical. Most small business and medium-sized business owners start with wearing four or more hats. Everything from the CEO to
right.
the operations manager to the marketing manager, the sales leader, and everything. And ideally, as they grow and with appropriate coaching and guidance along the way, they can be giving those hats off to other people in
Hmm.
their organization, and so that they can get down to having just the one hat of the owner founder
Yeah,
or
yeah,
CEO, depending on how they're structured.
yeah. Because usually it's one person talking to themselves, right?
Right.
So yeah, it makes sense to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
I
because
think
because using your terminology, if everybody's speaking a different language and the terminologies have different definitions and everything,
Hmm.
that becomes a viability issue for the overall value
Totally.
of the company and ability for it to increase value.
Absolutely.
and I think
Absolutely.
for small businesses, for your small founders, thinking of their business as an organization is probably a mind shift for them as well.
Hmm.
You know, they may be
Right.
thinking of it, this is my business. and it's just me and maybe, the person who looks at my email or answers the phone or something like that. But it's like, no, let's build up an organization of people who are running the system, and
Right.
with the founder at the head steering the ship.
Nope,
Hmm.
exactly right. That's why franchises are so popular and oftentimes successful, is because
Yeah.
that they come with pre-built systems. All you have
Mhm.
to do is follow the system, and if you
Plug and
follow the
play.
system,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That
built-in
is very
success.
attractive. That is very attractive. But
but there's
it
nothing that
doesn't
says you can't build your own system.
exactly, and it doesn't
Exactly,
appeal. It
exactly.
doesn't necessarily appeal to those who kind of, those maverick entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
Who
Right, the
like
people who
to
want
fly
their
by the
own
seat of their
name
pants.
above the door, right? Yeah.
Nope, exactly right. And it doesn't have to. But like I said,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean they can't learn from what works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Exactly.
exactly.
There's a
Exactly.
reason why they're successful. Um, So let's talk a little bit about metrics here. What, in your mind, William, actually shows this is what we need to be paying attention to, and it's not just a bunch of vanity stuff, right? Give me your top three, let's say,
Um,
especially when it comes to visibility, to being visible.
right.
Let's yeah,
I would say pipeline health would be on the in my top three, because that is indicative of, again, it's a leading indicator of where the business is going and where it's going to be.
yeah,
I would also want to find one particular constraint within the organization, and it'll differ depending on the organization. It's not a one size fits all in that regard. I think pipeline health probably can be pretty universally applied, but the one constraint that the business is experiencing that's identified during the diagnosis phase,
yeah,
that's reviewed on a ongoing rhythm, and then one identified improvement. Again, my focus is on simplicity. Most small business owners don't have a lot of free time so the last thing they need is someone coming in telling them, here's 10 more things to add to your to-do list.
yeah,
So my focus is to build out a plan for them that essentially is tackle one thing at a time and knock it out
yeah,
successfully, and then tackle the next thing and build on those successes going forward, so that you have that compounding effect that we've talked about and you alluded to earlier on in the conversation.
mhm,
And again, it has to be sequenced properly, and that's where my background and experience can help the owner in identifying what's the proper sequence to execute the things that we've identified that need to happen in your business to get from where it is now to where you want it to be. And so that would be tracking that one improvement that's in process right then until it's completed, and you can mark it off as, and again, completed not just as to check a box methodology, but completed so that it's systematized, so it's
mhm,
sustainable going forward. That's
and
the key to
repeatable.
any of these,
Yeah,
and that's the reason
yeah,
for wanting to only do one at a time. From my experience, when you're trying to do multiple things at a time and you're already overwhelmed, you tend to start treating things as a checkbox that, okay, I completed that, click, but you haven't really put in the systems to make it sustainable without ongoing Herculean efforts on somebody's
mm,
part.
mm, mm. So, when it comes to a business's offer that they have, do you have any kind of recommendations or particular, I guess, um, applications, let's say, of you know content out there in the attraction, when you're trying to attract people to you? Um, any kind of recommendation on how best to kind of mesh those together? So that the what you're putting out there in the world kind of aligns with what you have to offer.
Well, again, that gets back to what I referred to earlier as market dominating position or value proposition. If that's not most of the time, that may be reasonably well defined in the owner's mind, but not real well defined and communicated to the rest of the organization and not consistently put out there in their collateral like you're referring to. And so,
Yeah.
so that's generally what I would focus on, is to help hone in a very clear phrase, statement, short paragraph, whatever makes sense, that the owner, that matches what the owner has in their mind for their purpose of building the business, and that can then be communicated to the rest of the organization. So during their conversations, the front receptionist conversation with a client or a customer that comes in, that they have that terminology and idea in their mind that can be a natural part of their conversation. All their website, their flyers, their marketing collateral, their social media, it it all has that same consistent messaging around what is basically answering the question, why would you, Mr. Customer or Mr. Client, feel like I'm the only option for
Mm.
for getting this service or product,
Or at least the
and
best option, right?
or at least the best option, and then that it would be a mistake to get this service or product from somebody else because
Yeah.
of whatever that your value proposition, market dominating position, unique value proposition, all those different marketing buzzwords.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
All right. Good deal. So, visibility, we a key component of this, believe it or not, is empowerment. Empowerment
Mhm.
also kind of feeds into viability
Oh
as
yeah, definitely.
obviously. It's all, it's like, how can you separate them, right? But uh, communicating the messaging effectively, who you serve, what it is that you do for them, and making sure that everybody understands that across the board. Can't stress how important that is, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Nope, exactly right.
Um, awesome. Oh, well, let's get into
Think like
viability a little bit. Or you got
internally,
Simone?
uh, internally empowering your team is also serving them. So part of having a company's stakeholders aren't just the customers and the shareholders, it's also your internal team. So yeah,
Well,
that's all a part of it as well.
I've
Oh,
heard it, phrased as, the people that you work with are your customers. They're
Hmm,
a type of customer, right? Whether you want to think of it
right,
that way or not.
they are.
And, you know, it's up to you to give them a good experience as well, right?
no,
So,
Absolutely.
and I couldn't agree more. I didn't mention it earlier, but part in my work with the market dominating position and with the owners, that market is both the market for their products as well as the market for their employees.
mm,
That they need to be able to, for their employees to be able to say the same thing as they want their customers to say.
mhm.
I don't want to work anyplace else. This is where I
Right.
want to work because of the
Yeah.
whatever XYZ, whatever it is, that the
Yeah.
benefits, the culture, the way they treat me. I mean, as you're probably well aware, most people don't leave a job because purely on pay. Most people leave a job because of the people they work with and the culture they're having to endure in
100%.
that job.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
100%.
As a
There's a
person who's
reason
left many
why.
jobs.
Yes, exactly. But there's a reason why some of the
That is
best
true.
companies in the world also happen to be the best companies to work for, right? Like
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
there's a
Yeah. It's like
real,
they've got
you
it
know,
right. That your internal stakeholders and your external stakeholders they're serving them all well.
yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Couldn't stress that
Um,
enough.
yes, indeed. So, all right. Viability. What's the quickest way in your mind, William, to reveal that there's some friction between marketing and sales?
Hmm.
Uh, Actually, it sort of alluded to it earlier, one of your other questions. I hate to use the same methodology, but basically, I would sit down in part of the diagnosis phase and step through their process of how things, material, whatever,
Yeah.
works between the marketing and sales. And just take a specific deal that they closed and walk through it from its inception to the very end,
Yeah.
and look for pain points along the way, for
Yeah.
miscommunications like we talked about. Look for things that created a lot of friction
Yeah.
and that slowed the process down from where it seemed like it should have moved much smoother.
It sounds like you're telling me, William, that there's no real easy way to do it. You just have to kind of do the work and dig
Oh
in.
yeah,
That's
no, yeah,
okay.
that definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's no magic button to
Yeah.
push
Yeah.
a business situation. It requires a deep dive and a lot of digging and conversations.
I
Well,
do say
okay.
that marketing and sales is both art and science.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Which is which? I guess they both are. Uh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think the science of it is it's the measurement, it's following established principles, but then there's the art of it. Then there's that creativity. What may work for one company may not work for you based on your unique selling proposition, your branding, or
Right.
you know, um, how you talk to your customers is going to be a little bit different than your competitor who may be selling the exact same thing, but they're going to be talking to their customers a bit different than how you talk to your customers.
Well, and it's critical that there's a voice of the customer type activity with marketing and sales, so that they understand what the
This is
different
what we're
roles
hearing
are.
on the front lines, you know.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
because from my experience, because I was in a global marketing manager for a number of
Yeah.
years for one of those major corporations I was in, and listening to the sales organization was critical, because
Mm.
otherwise you end up with a situation where the salespeople are selling something that's different from what has
What
been
the marketing is
created.
promising, right?
Yeah.
And
And
then
so
the
so if
operations
there's a
have to
demand, yeah.
fulfill on what
Why did you
they have
tell
to
them
keep
that
the
they could do
promises that the
this?
marketing team made. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope,
Yeah.
exactly
It
right.
all has to work
Yeah.
together.
Do you have any recommendations, William, excuse me, where to avoid a bunch of meetings? Like how can they keep their systems aligned and everybody on the same page, in other words, for that viability component without, adding a whole bunch of meetings?
I mean, I'm not a big fan of meetings, so I'm certainly aligned with that. And I typically recommend a short, sort of a maybe whatever the appropriate frequency is, weekly, we'll use as an example, sort of a rev op style check-in. So it's not so much a formal meeting that people feel like they have to prepare for, but it people can see, looking at basically some of those metrics that we talked about earlier, what's the pipeline health, what's the status of overcoming that constraint that we're working on right now, so that improvement that we're working on now, so that it doesn't require a lot of time, because that's from my experience, oftentimes downside of the meeting is not only the opportunity cost of all the people that are in that meeting for an hour or 30 minutes or whatever it is, but it's also the time that was spent prepping for the meeting, whether
Yeah.
it be the people that are actually presenting something during the meeting, or people feeling like they have to be prepared to answer possible on the spot questions
Yeah. Yeah.
in the meeting. Whereas if you have those types of dashboards, say, sort of the RevOps check-in cycle, those are already pre-populated. You know what the status is. There's no surprise gotchas that are going to be
Hmm.
brought up. So it facilitates and streamlines a lot of the interactions and the opportunities there.
Nice. All right. We're running close to time here, but so I don't want to, at the risk of rushing here, don't want to eat into your time, William. Appreciate your being here and taking the time out to join us. So trying to be respectful of that. So let's go down to building a valuable business, how we increase the valuation of the business.
Okay.
So I have some questions here. When does it, in your mind, when does it make sense to, for example, package or productize a service? And do you ever run into the problem of customization and that type of situation? Is this something that you run up against?
I
It
have at
sounds like
times.
you've had experience with like manufacturing and whatnot. So it's
Yeah, I've experienced both in the small business world,
yeah,
major corp, and what's from applicability to small and mid-sized businesses. I would say it makes sense to package and productize the services after you see some patterns that are repeating. And it gets back to our
yeah,
conversation earlier with your how to identify what your ideal customer profile is look at your best customers now.
yeah,
So if all your best customers are always asking for something to be delivered in the same way that's maybe slightly different from what your standard is currently, then
yeah,
maybe that's an indication to you that it makes sense to productize that or package that specifically for that customer segment. That's your ideal customer, and that will
yeah,
probably attract more of your ideal customer.
yeah.
And generally, it
Okay.
also needs to be when the delivery steps have stabilized, because you don't want to start productizing or packaging something if you still have a lot of friction in delivering that
Do
that
you
product or service.
do you recommend companies avoid customization and providing a custom service or product or
Not across the board. It depends on the particular company. For example, an in-home care company that can be highly customized for having a nursing assistant in someone's home taking care of grandma. Some people only need someone once a week to come in and maybe do some light house cleaning and basic grocery shopping. Some people need live-in care. So so that's clearly a very highly customizable
yeah,
situation, but that business model is built on that. So that doesn't increase cost necessarily for that business model to operate function properly.
yeah. And there's probably ways that you can systematize the customization process, let's say,
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the key is to standardize the path,
yeah,
not necessarily the outcome. Because the
yeah,
outcome is the same, and even in that example I gave, you're still providing the care that the person needs, but how you provide that care is what gets customized, not the care itself.
Are you how concerned are you, William, with the customer experience, would you say? When you're talking to a business owner and you're helping them to kind of figure out what it is they do, who they serve, and that kind of thing is like the delivery side, let's say, and the impact on the customer experience. How important would you say that is?
Oh, I think it's critical. I mean that
Okay, all
because
right, yeah,
because I mean that gets back to your ideal customer profile and who your best customers are now is
yeah,
you're creating value for them in some form or fashion, whether it be from the service that you're providing or the product you're providing, but you're creating value, and that value needs to be predictable and consistent for the customer.
Is there anything that tells you that the customer experience is consistent? What is it that
A few things come to mind. For example, predictable onboarding of the new customer, that there's a system and a process in place for bringing new customers on board. There are very few escalations. There's very few problems that arise with the customers, and that your customers or clients are, like we referred to earlier, they consistently describe the value you give them. So that obviously then you're clearly providing a consistent value to them if every customer and client talks about it in the same way. Not necessarily using the exact same words per se, but if the value you're creating them is time saving or peace of mind or whatever the value might be, if they're using those same type of terminologies when you talk to your customers or you hear from your customers, then that's also an indication that what you're delivering is consistent.
Nice. Okay. Okay, so when part of building a valuable business is the ability to continue to grow, right?
Right.
And to kind of continue on that trajectory. How do you end up measuring the health of the business and maybe, predict the ability that it has for expansion and to continue on that growth path?
Well, one of the things that from our last conversation, consistency is one area that, because consistency reduces risk, and risk is often what kills value. But beyond that, as far as overall health and expansion opportunities, be some of the metrics I would look at would be engagement with the core deliverables. What's the service or product? What type of engagement is there with that? Are you consistently completing milestones on time with those expansions or those customer deliverables? And are you realizing the outcome that you had identified when starting down that path? Because expansion is going to follow visibility or clarity, whichever terminology you want to use. That's what's going to facilitate it, not pressure from behind. It's just pushing, because you might get some short-term growth, but as we talked about before, it's not going to be sustainable. It's going to be only because of the Herculean efforts of one or a few individuals, which basically is not sustainable, like we talked about.
Nice. All right. I think we should probably start wrapping up here. So kind of summarize what we've talked about with William today. Diagnosing before prescribing is crucial. Somebody phrased it to me as being prescription without diagnosis is malpractice, right? Thinking the other way around. So we would not expect that in the medical world. So kind of, we're trying to apply those principles to the business world, right? In that case. And the clarity, as you mentioned, helps to convert the effort into overall leverage. It sounds like, anyway.
Right, and sustainable over leverage.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And it's not necessarily about having these huge, monumental changes implemented in the business. Oftentimes, can be small, disciplined changes that help to compound over time, and help smooth out delivery, onboarding, handoffs between marketing and sales, et cetera, et cetera. So that sounds like, would you agree with all that so far?
Oh, definitely.
Sound good? Okay, all right.
100%.
All right. All right. So, yeah. Simone, do you have anything
Like
you
how
want to
we're
add?
so well aligned in our in our
Yeah.
approaches to helping businesses to boost their revenue, and but not do it in a way where it bogs down the founder, and and increases chaos.
Right.
Right. So we love that over here.
Or
Clarity
overwhelm.
or
Exactly.
overwhelm. Exactly. All right. We love the clarity first approach that you have. So we wanted to say thank you so much for being here today. We are going to put a link to your diagnostic intake in the show
Thank you.
notes. So so for you who are watching us today, we thank you so much for being here. And William's diagnostic intake is at amdgv.com/compass-intake. You don't have to remember that. We'll put the link in the description. Okay. And also, we want to let you know that if you are feeling like in your business you're up against the growth ceiling and you're not sure exactly where it might be coming from, take our assessment. The link will also be in the show notes, and so that you can identify where your business may be bottlenecked by either founder dependency, misalignment, or anything else in between. We thank you so much for watching today. If you learned something, what's your biggest aha or your biggest takeaway? Put that in the comments, and we'll so that we'll know what you're learning, and we'll respond, obviously, of course. So, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, William.
Thank you, William.
Thank you, Simone.